Kendrick.
Okay.
First name David, all right. And then email owner, OWNER, at dkendrickjr.com. Good evening, everyone. Oh, you can do better than that. Good evening. I know I'm between you and food, so I promise I'm going to entertain you all. And I know there are some people watching on a live stream. I promise to entertain you as well. I'm not sure who's in charge of moving the slides, so if we could, I see you back there. Yes, first slide. Gonna get into my story here. Life before the military. I heard somebody shout really quick when Chris mentioned Rochester, New York. Anybody familiar with Rochester? Any Bills fans in the audience? Josh Allen, baby, let's go. Number 17, let's go. All right. So, yes, sir. Yes, sir. So I am originally from Rochester, New York, in between Buffalo and Syracuse, if you don't know where that part of the country is. And I was a very wild child when I was a kid. I gave my mother a lot of problems, as well as my dad and my stepdad. One thing that I was good at was football. I'm a big guy. I was a big kid. I played offensive and defensive line for a school called Franklin. Then I went to East Ridge. And things were going great. But as good as I was in college or in playing football, I was nowhere near as good as a student. So there's a lot of issues that I had with my mom, and there was a lot of things that I couldn't do because of my grades. And when I moved in with my dad when I was 17 years old, he was really strict on me. He wanted to implement all these rules into my life, and I gave him all the pushback in the world that a 16-year-old, 17-year-old kid could give him. And in my mind, even though my grades weren't the best, I had this dream in my head that I was going to graduate from high school, play football for the University of Buffalo, and then get drafted by the Buffalo Bills. And let's just say that that did not happen at all. I didn't come nowhere close to that dream. I went to summer school all 4 years of high school, and my senior year, I was in high school, I was in summer school, and I wasn't doing too good. And my summer school teacher, he said, "Well, David, you didn't pass, but I know you want to join the military, and I don't want to hold you back. I'm not going to let this one experience in school prevent you from fulfilling your dream, especially trying to learn ninth grade algebra because you never need the Pythagorean theorem in your life. I've never used that one time since I've graduated, but that's what was holding me back from graduating high school." So he let me pass. And another thing that I was facing in Rochester, I saw many of my friends move on and try to be something else or still living with their parents and go to college and come back. And there was a lot of drug dealers and gang members from my old school, Franklin, the neighborhoods that I used to hang out in. And they said, "Well, David, you can always be a part of us." And the thing about it is it was so tempting seeing how much money they were getting, how fast they were getting it, the girls that they were getting. I wanted to be a part of that, but I didn't. I joined the military, and I joined as a cavalry scout. And it was very challenging for me to, first of all, pass the ASVAB. And when my recruiter saw my scores, he said, "Well, we know you ain't gonna get into the Air Force with these grades." So we pretty much all knew I was going into the Army. And then when we took my first ASVAB, he said, "Well, we pretty much know you're gonna be on the ground fighting with this score." And luckily, that's all I wanted to do. I told my recruiter, I said, "I'm a wild child. I love my testosterone. I want to come back with a story to tell." And when I told that to my mom, she said, "What the hell are you talking about?" I'm my mom's oldest child, and I'm her only son. So for you mothers out there, you can imagine what it's like to send your little baby boy off to war. And I said, "Mom, I'm doing it. I'm going. I'm 17 years old, and once I graduate high school, I'm going to join." And that's what I did.
Thank you.
Oh, thank you. So I didn't get to play for the Buffalo Bills, but I did join MEPS out of Buffalo. So I went to Buffalo, and And we took this picture, and there's tears in everyone's eyes, and I get sworn in front of a big fancy flag like this. This is a great background, by the way. And that's when I stopped being David Kendrick and I became Private David Kendrick. And then I was stationed at Fort Carson, Colorado, and Colorado Springs, and I met the best friends of my life out there. The best friends of my life. I was on my own for the first time. I went through 4 months of basic training at Fort Knox, Kentucky. I climbed the big three hills there, and I'm on my own experiencing the world for the first time. And not only experiencing the world, but experiencing everything that I didn't experience in Rochester. You know, Rochester is a very small community, a lot of minorities and things like that. So I'm integrating into the real world with people that I didn't know, and I struggle a bit in basic training. But when I got to Fort Carson, I met great leadership and I met the best friends of my life there. And it was an experience unlike anything that I've ever had in my life. And you can move on to the next slide. We went to Iraq. In 2006, we went to Iraq, and I was 19 years old. And as you can imagine, my mother, she was not very happy with this decision. And I was very proud of what I was doing. We trained very, very hard. I don't know if you guys are familiar with Fort Irwin, California. We went to Fort Irwin in July, around in the Mojave Desert, getting ready to train to go to Iraq. So you can imagine what that training was like. But thank God that me and my battle buddies paid attention when we were there, because those are 30 days of the hardest training I've ever experienced in my life. Now, during this time in 2006, President Bush was in office, and he initiated something called the troop surge, because during this time overseas, we are basically getting our butts handed to us. I don't think that anyone was prepared for the front lines and some of the modifications and the adjustments that our enemy made every time we made an adjustment. And during this time in Iraq in 2007, it was the deadliest year of the war, and we lost 899 soldiers. Now, me still being 19 during this time in Iraq, it was all the adrenaline that I wanted. Even though we were overseas, I was still having the best time of my life because I was with the best friends of my life. And you don't hear too many people say that, but in the military, I'm pretty sure I see some big rank in here, some colonels, some generals and things like that. I'm pretty sure you've made some friends here that are closer to you than your own family. And that's what made riding. I was a lead scout, so I was the one who, if we were to get hit with an IED, it would hit my truck as a lead scout. But with this bond that I had in the military, unlike anything else that I ever had, there was never a moment that I feared being in that front truck. And that's what serving this country, that's what it did to me. A kid who a couple years ago didn't care about my grades outside of high school, outside of football season. Now, all this military discipline, the sacrifice, the selfless service, the love that I have for these guys that I didn't know just a year ago, now I'm willing to put my life on the line for them. And we're all going through this together. And as well as the good times, we had bad times as well. We lost a lot of people in our troop. I was a Bravo troop, 361st Cavalry Regiment out of Fort Carson, Colorado. You move on to the next slide. June 17th, 2007. I was walking from my truck I was walking from a backyard to my truck. And during this time, we had received some intel that there was going to be an attack on a local college. So we had a mission to just sit there on each corner. So let's say that we were a platoon, we had 4 trucks. Each one of us had to control a sector of this college because we received some intel that there was going to be an attack. So it was our job to check people coming in and out of this college for explosive devices. A mission that we've done countless times overseas. If anybody knows how redundant the military can be, you guys know. So it's the same mission that we've done for about a week, but this time something seems off. And if you've ever been in the combat zone or any situation, you just know there's a few songs you can feel it in the air. And there was just something off on this day because every single day that we were on this corner, there was an Iraqi police squad car there with us. June 17th, 2007, they weren't there. I was walking from my backyard to my truck, and I heard a loud crack, and I immediately fell to the ground. And when I fell to the ground, I blacked out. And I woke up about 30 seconds later. And I looked down, and I looked to my left, and my toes were pointing in a direction that I didn't think was humanly possible. I looked up, and I looked to my left, and my truck commander was laying face down in a pool of his own blood. And I immediately thought, we in some trouble. I looked down, and my truck, or my dismount from my truck came. He ran over to me, and he said, "Kendrick, are you okay? Are you alive?" He rolled me over, and when he rolled me over, my leg didn't roll with me. And he cut my pants off right there in the middle of the street. And that's why I thank Michael Hamilton, if you ever see this, for paying attention when we went to NTC and that combat lifesavers training, because I was hit in my femoral artery. And when he cut my pants off there in the middle of the street, a pool of blood just ran from my pant legs. And he said, "Well, Kendrick, you got shot by a sniper. We got ambushed." What happened, after that loud crack, after that sniper had shot me, I fell to the ground. And then two guys pulled up to the corner that we were on in a pickup truck, and they did something called pray and spray. And they both had AK-47s, and they shot at me again while I was on the ground, and I got shot again in my right leg. And my truck commander jumped on top of me, and he took 2 rounds, one through the forearm and one in the hip, but he survived as well. I was blacked out for about maybe 30 seconds, and all this had happened within that 30-second time window. And so he cut my pants off in the middle of the street, and this is June in the middle of Iraq, and it's over 100 degrees, and I feel my skin burning while I'm on the ground. And I said, "Hamilton, what's going on? What do you see?" And he said, "I can't see the entrance wound." So thank God he paid attention in combat lifesavers training. He put the tourniquet on my left leg above the entrance wound, but since I'm such a big guy, we needed 2 tourniquets. And if you guys know anything about tourniquets, they hurt. And then we also found out later on down the road, the bullet also shattered my femur, and that's why my left leg was just dangling there. And it also clipped my sciatic nerve. So when I was on the ground, it felt like fireworks are going off throughout my entire body. And later on, come to find out, what my doctor told me is those were the nerves actually dying in my left leg. That burning sensation, the tingling sensation. Imagine if your leg falls asleep, but it's the worst pain you ever felt. That was the nerves actually dying from the sciatic nerve being clipped in my left leg. And then there on the ground, I said, "Well, Hamilton, I have something on this side too." And then that's when he noticed that I had been shot in my right leg because there was so much blood, and the injury to my femoral artery needed all the attention. And then he had to put a tourniquet on my right leg. So here I am in Iraq, 19 years old. Well, at this time I was 20. 2 tourniquets on my leg, almost bleeding out. But somehow in the back of my mind, I thought my mom was gonna kick my butt. You can move on to the next slide. I got sent to a unit, the Warrior Transition Unit. In that unit, it was a very dark time for me. That's when I was with other soldiers who were injured in Iraq. And while I was going through my healing process, while I was going through my surgeries, I made friends with a bunch of other soldiers who were as well. And then I found this secret underbelly of the military and really in life, and that was addiction. I had 14 surgeries. I stayed in the hospital at Fort Carson for 3 months total. and didn't know that I had developed an addiction to opioids because of the morphine. So when I got out of the hospital, I found myself trying to go back to the hospital to have more surgery because I was addicted to that high from the anesthesia and the morphine being rolled in and out of those room, in and out of the operating room. So while in the WTU, I connected with other soldiers who had those same issues, and we did a lot of pills together. This was way before there was an opioid crisis or anything like that. And they weren't sending soldiers to Walter Reed because during this time in 2010 or 2007, 2008, the big scandal was going on here in Walter Reed. So they weren't sending anyone there. So during this time, during the bloodiest year of the war, we lost 899 soldiers. We had thousands more who were injured, and most of us were all in one place, and I don't think the military was prepared for that. And so I developed a different bond with soldiers. We bonded over drinking and doing pills together and things of that nature. And it wasn't until I lost one of my friends that I stopped combining the two. And then in 2010, I was medically discharged and I returned home to Rochester, and it was the darkest time of my life. I returned home when I was 23 years old, and on the left-hand side here, this is the first letter that I got back from the same country that I had got shot for, the same country that my best friend was shot and killed for the day after I was shot by a sniper. And this is a response to a letter of unemployment that I put in. I put in an application for unemployment when I returned home. And this letter right here is from the state of New York saying, since you are disabled, and the goal of unemployment is for someone to be willing and able and ready to go back to work, basically you don't qualify because you're disabled now. Because as a result of my injuries, I have severe muscle atrophy in my left ankle. Still have surgeries. I still had multiple surgeries. After this time, I had surgery on my Achilles. I had so many different surgeries. The toes of my left foot don't move anymore. I have dead spots in my left leg where I can't feel anything at all. And this was the first letter that I got back from this great country that I went over and fought for and my friends died for. And it was the worst time of my life. The summer of 2010 was the worst time of my life. You see that little pink bike there? I have 4 little sisters, Bria, Brianna, Ashley, Michelle, and I spent that entire summer with them, teaching them, teaching them how to ride their bikes. And when I got home, I saw all those same drug dealers and all those same gang members and everybody that I thought I had left behind in Rochester living a better life than me. And I thought I had made a mistake by serving my country. I thought to myself, what did I do wrong? And nobody in my family had ever joined the military before. And me and my dad had a lot of fights because they called me Junior back home. I'm David Kendrick Jr. He would say always, Junior, I told you don't join the army. I told you not to go. I told you not to go. What were you doing? And it just drove me crazy during this time. And I continued to drink. I didn't mix any pills with them. Now I just did them separate because now the military was gone. I had no more uniform. And in this picture, I used to wear my PT jacket just to feel like I was a part of something bigger than myself because now I had nothing. Nothing. And even my one good friend, Silas, he wasn't in the military. Nobody in his family ever served. And I really didn't know what to do. I didn't know who to reach out to. I was drinking myself to sleep. My mom, heavily involved in church. She took me to church all the time, but it just didn't do anything for me. It wasn't giving me the help that I needed. I was down in the dumps from getting this letter from the state of New York. I didn't know exactly what the extent of my life was going to be at 23 years old. I thought I had made a mistake by joining the military. And I began to think about anybody that I could reach out to. I tried to write the newspapers. I was on a local news station in Rochester. And you can move on to the next slide. That's when I remembered General Robert Mixon. When I was in the hospital, he took this picture with me and my mom. And usually when I tell people that I'm from Rochester, New York, the first thing they say is, where the hell is that? But he said, I'm going to be retiring in Rochester. And if either one of you ever need anything, please let me know. And I reached out to News Source 13 in Rochester, New York, and I'll never forget a reporter named Sean Carroll. He gave me General Robert Mixon's number, and I met with him at the end of the summer. And I had this big, dirty afro because I couldn't even afford money for a haircut. I didn't even have clean clothes on to meet him. And he saw the pain. I said, sir, I need help. And he could see it. And he got me enrolled into a program called the Warrior Salute Program with a company called CDS Unistel out of Rochester, New York. And you can move on to the next slide. CDS Warrior Salute Program is a program intended to help those veterans who need help transitioning from civilian life or from military life to civilian life. I told him my story. Every time you go to the VA for a mental health evaluation, they ask you, do you feel like you're a danger to yourself or to others? And during this time I did some very questionable things, a lot of things I need to pray for. So I'm glad my mom did bring me to church during that summer. And I said, well, sir, I'm kind of living back and forth in between my car. I don't want to go to my mom's house because I don't want to drink around my sisters and I don't want to scare them. And I don't know how long I can be around my dad because I can't hear how much I should not have joined the Army. And he said, well, David, we can get you an apartment. So I moved basically out of my car into my own apartment in a town called Webster, New York. And I got enrolled into the CDS Warrior Salute program, and I got a job at a spice factory. And then that's when I learned about contracting. Because CDS Unistel, they work on a spice contract, and I've seen some of the spices all around. If you guys have ever been on a military installation, you may have seen spices from Unistel. And if you know anything about food or military installations, it needs all the spice and seasoning that it can get. So this is me with black ground pepper, putting it into the hopper. I got a job at a spice factory on Blossom Road and found out exactly what I did there and what SourceAmerica really was, because this was a SourceAmerica program through the Warrior Salute program. And with these spices that we shipped them all around federal installations throughout the country. But what was key for me is I got to supervise other individuals with disabilities. And I slowly started to find myself in this program. I had somewhere to stay, finally. I had support, finally. I had the military around me, finally. As other veterans came into the program, we got to tell stories about the military. And for the civilian, if there's any civilians watching, if you ever have two soldiers who have Purple Hearts, they can go on and talk about their injuries for days. And I finally started to feel like David Kendrick again, because I was Private Kendrick, I was Specialist Kendrick, I was Sergeant Kendrick, but when I got back to Rochester, there was no David Kendrick Jr. It was either drunk or high David, never sober. But in this program, I got these skills. I learned how to drive this wonderful Ford Escape there that we named. We named our forklift a Ford Escape. And I got these real life skills that could be used in the civilian world, because another reason that I was so down in the dumps, as a Cavalry Scout, we usually go on into the civilian world to be police officers, firefighters. We went to the White House yesterday, seen a lot of Secret Service police riding bikes, things like that. We serve and protect. You have some soldiers who want to, be in the rear with the gear, like my recruiter told me. He was a supply guy, but I wanted to fight, and I couldn't do that anymore. But in this program, I got those civilian skills, and I finally started to find myself again. Because believe it or not, at 23 years old, when I got my own apartment, didn't even know how to pay rent. Because in the military, everything is taken care of for you, at least when you're in the barracks. Didn't know how to budget, didn't know how to do anything at 23 years old. And this program gave me all of those real life skills. But more importantly, when I went into work every day, these individuals had different levels of autism, Down syndrome, different type of mental and physical disabilities, but they never came in with a frown on their face. Never. And I had to give myself a pep talk and say, David, well, these guys were born with these disabilities. Yeah, you were injured, but your life isn't over. You have this great new opportunity to find out who you're going to be outside of the military. Yeah, you were injured, but your life isn't over. Because look at these guys coming to work every day, looking forward to seeing me every day. So that's when life started to turn around for me. And slowly, my mom saw me turn around, and my sister saw me turn around, and my dad saw me turn around. And things started to get a lot better for me as an individual. Move on to the next slide. And who I am today, now, I bet if I took the ASVAB again, I can get into the Air Force. Yes, because now I do have a master's degree. And I wrote my book, Calvary. Really, the military was the best time of my life, the good and the bad. Because you'll never meet a group of people like you will in the military, especially during this time at war when you know what your friends have to come back home to. You meet their families. And I think the military is strategic about doing that to make sure that your battle buddies, you know, you always have their back because you know what they have to come home to. And I put all of that in this book today. And today I moved from Rochester because with those brutal winters that we have up there and getting that lake effect snow from Canada, with my orthopedic injuries, I could not live up there anymore. It was just too cold for me. So I moved down to Hotlanta, the A-town. I live in DeKalb County now, and I started my business, Lion Speaking Agency. And I named it Lion Speaking Agency because it really does take a lot of heart to get in front of people and tell stories that you would find much embarrassing. Because there were times when I would go over to my mother's house drunk and my sisters would be crying, they would be scared. But now I use this to inspire, motivate, and help others and really spread the word about SourceAmerica, first of all, because if it wasn't for them, I wouldn't be here today and be who I am. This program, the Warrior Salute program, was intended for a 6-month stay. But I was making so much progress in the program. They said, David, we're going to let you stay for a year. And the program continued to grow, and it continued to grow. And now they have new spices and things like, and things that they ship all around the country because as the military, the technology and the advancements on the battlefield that we make in the military advance, the one thing that doesn't advance is the quality of the food. So they're still working over there on Blossom Road. I go visit those guys all the time. And there's new veterans in this program now. Veterans who have substance abuse problems, veterans who just need some help getting back on their feet, veterans who just need a second chance at life. And the thing about SourceAmerica and what this program does, it's not a handout. When I was in this program, we still had to work hard. You could still be fired, you could be demoted in the program. It's not a handout. You have to earn everything. But because of the discipline and the respect that I earned while in the military, as well as the other members of the Warrior Salute program, they haven't had many problems in there. This program, it gave me a chance to be somebody that I never thought I would be outside of the military. I thought the military was going to be my entire life. I thought I was going to do 20 years or 30 years or 40 years and then just get out. But life doesn't go as planned. And now, this is the first time I spoke for SourceAmerica in about 3 or 4 years now, because during coronavirus, we weren't doing much speaking in public. So I want to thank all of you today for listening to my story. Thank you for inviting SourceAmerica out here. And if you guys ever visit Rochester, New York, make sure you visit the Blossom Road Spice Factory. And go Bills. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you all. Are there any questions? And I'll answer anything. There's nothing that's off limits, please.
Hey, thanks for sharing with us, but I have one quick one. What have you ever thought about mentoring some folks?
Mentoring?
In a virtual environment, yeah.
I haven't had that opportunity yet. I would be happy to do that. I do a lot of things in Atlanta while here. Somebody just called me to do something like that in Cherokee County. I would love to do that though. I would love to.
Awesome. So afterwards, if you don't mind, I'd like a moment of your time.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
I just want to say I have 3 season tickets, so if you ever want to go to a game, section 142, row 10, I got your name on it.
All right. All right. Because Lord knows nobody wants to go to a Falcons game, okay? Thank you all for your time.
David, thank you so much. The round metal object, I'm not allowed to say challenge coin, because to buy something for everybody, but it says be a force, you are a force, and just very inspirational. Thanks for all that you do, and glad that you have made it on the other side and shared that story with us. And if we get to Hot Landing, definitely.
Thank you.
Got a plan for you. Don't drop it. Thank you for everything that you do, David.
Thank you. Thank you, thank you, thank you.
I'll give you a hug.
One last thing that I forgot. Life has been so good in Atlanta, everything like that now, and I've overcome a lot. And this is the first time that I've been able to travel with somebody. So part of my recovery is also having a beautiful woman there, right there. I'm going to embarrass her, so everybody say hi, Brittany.
Even though I'm a Niners fan,
Hey, man,
your bills are good.
I like the Niners.
Yeah, good.
I like the Niners.
Just jump on board, all right?
Thank you.
Where can I get your book?
It's on Amazon. Yep. Just Google Amazon David Kendrick.
Yes, sir.
Hi, thank you for sharing your story. I was
Thank you.
texting my brother while you were talking, and you guys were at Carson together. He's
Really?
a scout too, Michael Morris.
Oh,
But he said you
okay.
guys were in different units.
Right.
So thank you for sharing your
Thank
story.
you. I love
And
Colorado.
thank you for giving a shout out to your lady. Smart guy. And good luck to you.
Thank you.
I just want to say thank you. I appreciate it.
Thank you very much.
My husband came from not great stuff. He's a pilot in the Air Force. I know how hard it is to share stories like that. So
Yeah.
we just thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
I want to cut, but can you be heard?
Yeah, sure.
Iraq, when you were in Iraq,
Really?
I made a really bad decision, almost got my airman killed. So when I retire, I went through it. With
Another one.
adjustment, I understand adjustment, and I didn't have anything like bad like you. But adjustment is just hard. So
It
I can't
is.
even imagine.
Those struggles, because it's a real thing these days with kids just going through the social media thing has their mind just blown. So
Yeah,
struggling to
and
get through
when
this.
I got back, first people there, gangs. Oh, you know all
Yep.
this stuff now,
Yep.
aren't you? Hey,
Yep.
man. I'm like,
Yep.
no, man, I'm not
Yep.
trying to do that. You know,
Yeah.
like, yeah.
All
So
the
I would
sides.
love to. I'll email you. I'll email you right away because I love to do that.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much for sharing your story, and thank you for your support. We never leave the spouses out.
Much, ma'am.
It's important to share that story so people can see the other side. So that's awesome.
Thank you, thank you. A lot of big ranking here. You know, if I would have been in 20 years, you know, I would have been sergeant major, you know, something like, or you know, transition. I got my degree now, you know.
But you're walking in your purpose.
I am. I am. It's nothing better than being up there. I love it. I love it. It is, sir. It is. Oh, see, I got to tell you what these are. I collect these. I have. Thank you very much,
I'm out of
man.
Italy, so I appreciate what you're doing.
Thank you very much, sir. That means a lot to me. Thank you. Yeah.
I'll see you before. Give me information. If you let me know.
Okay. Perfect. Thank you. I like the beard game, man. You know, I love a beard, man. Mine a little bit gray, but you know.
Hey, I thank you for sharing, man. I wasn't ready for the onions to be cut.
Man, let me tell you. I haven't told a story in a while, so like seeing my sister bike, like, oh my God, yeah. They mean a lot to me, man. So yeah.
Glad you made it through, man.
Thank you. Thank you, bro. Keep the beard strong.
Oh, I will.
Have a good one.
Thank you very much,
I
ma'am.
was serious about the season tickets. That's my phone number and my email address.
You're
my
awesome.
name. So
Hey,
let
this-
me know the sooner the better because my family hits me up all the time.
Always,
For
I
no
will.
charge when y'all want to go to a game.
That's
You know,
awesome. Thank you very much,
yeah,
ma'am.
so
You
when
know what?
You're gonna be in Western New York.
Yeah.
You can text me, shoot me an email.
That is awesome because you don't meet that many Bills fans. So I'm that, and like I said, I had a dream: play for University of Buffalo, go to play for the Bills. Didn't
my
work
dog's
out.
name is Ralph. My license plate's Dub.
Oh, Ralph
Like
Will,
obsession.
love it. Hey, look, you know what? Like,
He has a tattoo.
like my phone.
All of it,
Like,
How old are you now?
I'm 30. I'll be 36 on the
I
20th.
wouldn't have guessed that.
Yeah.
I would've thought you were
Yeah.
you know, 31 maybe.
No, man, I went to Iraq, so I got all this gray.
Yeah. Well, no, I
Went
was
over
right
there.
there at the same time with you, so I understand.
Yeah, but yeah, went over there early, but living out in and out, got my degree, making the most out of life, got a book, and I got another speech. I got 2 more speeches coming up and a big conference at NAMI, a mental health organization. So things have been really good.
I tell you, man, I hear stories like yours. You guys inspire me.
Yeah.
Inspire me to what I do when I finally hang up my own uniform. Seriously.
Really, really.
You know, giving back is what we should all be about.
Yeah,
Service is part of life.
and
I am Shay. I don't think
I'm Brittany.
Mrs.
Brittany,
Brittany
nice to
Woody,
meet you.
my significant other here.
You know, awesome. I'm glad you got to visit us too.
Absolutely. I had a great time.
But yeah, I do a lot of stuff for families because families serve too.
Yeah.
But that'll give me a reason to visit Colorado again. Like I said, I was stationed in Colorado Springs, so yeah.
And that's where our retirement home is in the Springs. That's why he decided to work out of Denver.
I love Colorado.
We overlook all of the contractor sites, right?
Yeah.
Lockheed Martins, the Boeings, and the
Yeah.
small ones.
Yep.
And so we got a lot of vets there too, and we do some programs. Maybe we can get you out to some of that.
I would love it. I'm always
It's
available.
Good inspirational speaking, something we all need.
Yes.
Right?
I'm always
Brittany, it's
available.
Nice meeting you. I don't want to take up all your time because I know other people are going to want to talk to
She's
you.
timing me, because we got to catch a flight back to Atlanta. So
Oh, yeah.
she keeps me coordinated because I can get lost in this, and next thing you know, I've missed the flight. And
you know they're taking our picture.
oh, I'm sorry.
We have an employee resource group called Valor that we're constantly looking for people to either come to one of our locations and kind of do some speeches like you did, or we'll do some virtual ones because of the way everything's kind of been.
Right.
Do you have a business card? And if so, is that something you'd be interested in? Maybe we call you up sometime to look into that.
Definitely.
We do a lot of Veterans Day, Memorial Day, things like that, or so those big events.
Perfect,
We're usually
yeah.
looking for speakers.
Awesome.
For that sort of thing. Sometimes we'll bring you in. Since you're in Atlanta, that might be close to one of our big offices.
Okay.
Usually we see Plano or Boston or one of our big offices, or Indiana. We bring somebody in to speak in person and they'll broadcast it to everybody else.
That works.
And then with COVID, we were looking for something to just do the virtual thing to set it up too.
I do both.
Perfect.
So whatever you guys need.
Mr. David Kendrick, a hug from all of us.
Oh. Well, thank you, ma'am.
She said, he's an inspiration. I'm so proud we have programs to help our wounded warriors. Being a male spouse of a retired Air Force Chief Master Sergeant, I've seen my airmen in their darkest hours and worked to get them as help. His story was unreal.
Thank you.
I love that.
Thank you.
So I can't get full credit for the hug. That was right.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
That's what I
Thank
meant.
you. Thank you.
I'm
Thank
just
you.
the messenger.